What's up, Dragon Brood? Today we're taking a look at more decks using Strixhaven cards, and we are still focusing on standard, but there is a lot to offer here, and this actually brings up an interesting thing because currently in standard we've seen a lot of mono white, a lot of mono red, and it seems like recently mono white has sort of fallen off just a little bit, but it looks like Strixhaven might have actually brought a few more tools to those mono white decks. But they play quite a bit differently. So I'm sure now that I've got your attention, we can go take a look at this deck list. Alright, so starting at the top, we're going to be playing one of those cards that everybody still gets annoyed with playing against mono white. I'll see the Life's Bounty. I mean, it's still ridiculous how good this card is. And it's hard to avoid in this type of list because it gives something protection from a color. It can give something, give you lifelink, and we do have ways to pump up our creatures, so the lifelink could be relevant as well. So, and it's just a good quality 1 mana creature. Now, the first card in the deck list that actually comes from Strixhaven is actually Clever Lumimancer. And this is cool because it has Magecraft, which is a thing we're really focusing on in this deck list. So every time you cast a spell, you will get a +1, or actually +2/+2 on this particular card. And it is only 1 mana, so it's an 0/1, which means you really can't do much with it blocking. However, unless you have a spell, then you're likely turning it into a 3+ power with the cards that are in our deck. So that actually makes it pretty reasonable. And we're playing so many cheap cards, you're going to get to maximize your mana every turn. Then we're playing Eager First Year. This is just a 2 mana 2/2. Whenever you play or copy an instant or sorcery, you will get +1/+0 on this card. So you're turning it into a 3/2, then a 4/2, which actually isn't a lot to write home about, but when you're getting to play a spell and pump multiple cards in a turn, this actually might have a little bit of extra weight here. Then we're also including a 3 Elite Spellbinder. This is probably the best white card in the set so far. It's hard to turn your nose up at this card. It just does so much. And it flies, which is also awesome. And could get rid of those, or at least slow down those sweepers and whatnot from your opponent's hand. Fairy Godmother. This actually almost didn't make the cut in my list, but I was looking at other cheap 1 mana things you could play. And ultimately, we almost had to include some number of adventure cards to take advantage of the Magecraft. So I decided on this one because you can still give stuff flying, and that extra power really does help when you're trying to just be a super aggro, low to the ground deck. But, I still did miss some of the other adventure cards, so I would say if you want to include them, go for it if you can find the space. Now, probably the best card in this deck for Magecraft is Leonin Lightscribe. And this gives all your other creatures +1/+1. So it's almost like prowess for the rest of your team. 2 mana, 2/2, really gonna do its job, just coming out to fight early. I mean, yes, it can be killed by Stomp, but you know what? So can all your other creatures. They only have so many Stomps, so you know what? We're gonna go for it. Plus, again, like I said, being able to pump every creature every time you play a spell, and when you see our suite of spells, we have quite a few. Like, you might be able to get a +2 or +3, not counting the actual bonuses that the spells themselves are giving. So there's a lot of potential here to not just go wide, but to go very fast. And then one of the cards I've been keeping my eye on here that I really wanted to get into this deck is Mavinda, Student's Advocate. It's a 3 mana 2/3 flyer. For 0 mana, you can cast an instant or sorcery from your graveyard as long as it targets a creature you control. If not, you have to pay an additional 8 mana. If you play it, you just exile it, so you can't do it infinitely with the same cards, obviously. And that's okay, that's totally fair. But it is a flyer for 2/3 for 3. Love it. And getting to reuse all of these cheap spells is actually really, really good. I mean, when you're talking about so many things that can give +1, +2, draw cards, do all this stuff, like, this is really big. Like, this is really something. So, really looking forward to see how this card works out in the list. Now, those are all our creatures. That's 24 creatures. And then we're going to get into this whole suite of spells we have here. So, we're going to start with Defiance Strike. 1 mana, +1/+0, and you get to draw a card. So this is real simple. Just a way to pump up something, get an extra card. Now, Feat of Resistance is one of those cards I think a lot of people overlook, but it's been around for almost a year, being in Core Set 21. But not only does it give you a +1/+1, which is awesome because it's a counter that stays, so you get to spend your mana and still get to keep the bonus, but it actually gives you protection from a color. And this is huge when you want to block something and maybe get a surprise block on the opponent. Maybe you're trying to punch through just that last 4 or 5 points worth of damage. You know, there's a lot of things you can do with that. So keep that. Also, it can protect you from removal. You know, if somebody goes to target something with a Heartless Act, then you're like, great, give it protection from black, right? You can do a lot with that card. Also, another card that I like that's been overlooked for a while is Fight as One. This is from Ikoria. It's a 1 mana instant, and you get to choose. You can either or choose one or both. So you can target a human, you can target a non-human, and each one gets +1/+1 and indestructible. If you go back and look at the list, we do have a fair mix of both humans and non-humans. So there's a lot of times you're going to play it and get to save 2 creatures, which is awesome. You're going to get to give multiple things a bonus, which is great. And then imagine if you play this alongside like the Light Scribe, right? You're attacking, you target your creatures, they each get +1. The Light Scribe gives them each additional +1. So now you got +2/+2, and those creatures are indestructible, right? So you have all these abilities that are compounding. And then, you know, that's not saying if it wasn't a clever Luvromancer, so then that got +2/+2, or Eager First Year, that gets +1/+0, right? All these cards are doing all these things together, which is really what makes this type of list pretty exciting. And then there's one we're trying out here called Guiding Voice. It is a sorcery. It's 1 mana. Put a +1/+1 on target creature. So again, you're getting a +1/+1 counter. But this one lets you learn. So we do have a package of sideboard cards that really try to take advantage of the lessons. Now, they're not that great, but the versatility you get in addition to getting to put a +1/+1 on a card is actually pretty solid. And because we can kind of pick and choose what card we want, we can go get stuff for silver bullet situations, or we can just get something to cast to utilize our mana efficiently. So either way, it's going to be a lot of upside, and it's almost like getting to give a creature +1/+1 and draw a card, but you're getting to draw something that's hopefully relevant to your scenario. Kabira Takedown. I am not the biggest fan of this card, I will admit, but in this type of deck where you're just trying to go wide really quickly, I don't mind it, and it's going to be a good removal card. You're usually going to deal 2 or 3 damage with it, but it also doubles as a land, so this lets us cheat on mana just a little bit, which I'm okay with, because all of our stuff is so cheap. We may even be able to get by with an additional mana cut out of here when it's all said and done. And then we're playing 2 Chijiri Shelter. This is another card that gives you protection from a color, help you get those same combat tricks that you're able to get from Feat of Resistance, but it also counts as a land. It has a white mana on the backside, so between this and Kabira Takedown, you get like the equivalent of about 2.5 extra lands for the deck. So it makes it not feel so bad, you know, when you're looking at your total mana count. And then we're playing 1 copy of Show of Confidence. When you play the spell, you can copy it for each other instant or sorcery you played for the turn. And you get to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It gains vigilance until end of turn. And you get to choose new copies for the target spot, or new targets for the copies, by the way. But it's 2 mana instant. Pretty good. I'm not like sold on the card, but I really wanted to try it in this list because again, it's able to pump your creatures up permanently. I also like the fact that it can be copied, and since we have so many cheap things, it's possible that maybe you like Defiance Strike, Fight as One, Show of Confidence, and then boom, boom, boom. I mean, you're getting all these big spells here. So really excited about that. And then again, this compounds when you're talking about your Magecraft things. So really looking forward to what we can do with this. And then our lands right now are 2 Castle Ardenvale, 15 Plains. And actually, you know what? I'm even willing to take a chance because looking at this, if you look at our mana curve here, we really only have 5 things that cost 3 mana. Everything else is 1 or 2. So I'm going to be really, really brave here. And I'm just going to cut a Castle Ardenvale because I don't know if that's real good. And I'm going to go for another Show of Resistance. I think I'm going to do that. A little bit crazy. You're going to be looking here saying, oh, you only have 16 lands. But again, we do have Chijiri Shelter. We do have Kabira Takedown. I mean, in their most literal sense, that's 21 lands. Really, it's going to play probably like 19 lands. But again, we don't have hardly anything that costs more than 3, except for some things we have here on the sideboard. So we do have access to a few different things here. We've got, these are all lessons, by the way. So these lessons are going to be here. So if we try to learn from Guiding Voice here to give us a chance to grab something. So Here we're looking at Academic Probation, playing a couple of these. This lets you choose one. It is a sorcery for 2 mana. Choose a non-land card name. Opponent can't cast spells with the chosen name until their turn, or until your next turn, actually. And then, or you can choose target non-land permanent until your next turn. It can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. So, kind of just a quirky defense card if you need it. Expanded Anatomy. You get to put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. It gains Vigilance. So this is just a way to grow your creatures as an extra bonus. Introduction to Annihilation. Now, this is the one thing that is kind of pricey. This costs 5. And realistically, I don't know how often we're going to get to use it. I mean, it is nice to be able to just destroy a non-land or exile target non-land permanent for 5 mana. Its controller gets to draw a card. You don't really care about that part if you're trying to get rid of a big thing. Realistically, you probably aren't going to have too much trouble casting this one. However, the next one, a Mascot Exhibition, is really difficult. But truthfully, this is more of a super late game card. You know, your board's been swept. Maybe you play a creature. You end up getting to go learn, and you grab this for a late game card. But you get to create a 2/1. This is 7 mana, by the way. You get to create a 2/1 white and black Inkling with flying, you know, a 3/2 red spirit, and a 4/4 blue and red elemental. So you get 3 creatures for 7 mana, a 4/4, 3/2, and a 2/1. Seems more than reasonable, but again, this is just kind of a late game option to give you something to go get. And then we have Reduced to Memory, which is the one of the only other white lessons actually in here. And this is for 3 mana. Exile target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a 3/2 red-white spirit token. So if there's just something else you want to destroy and you only have 3 mana, like, cool, you can get rid of it and your opponent gets a 3/2, and that's probably a fair exchange for whatever it is you're trying to do. But this is kind of a cool way to incorporate 2 mechanics from the set when you're talking about Magecraft and Lessons. Now, some of you are probably asking, like, is this outright better than the current versions of Mono White Aggro that we've been seeing? Truthfully, we don't know. I will say this version has the potential to be much more explosive, because you could have turns where you may go from attacking for 4 mana to attacking for 15 mana, you know, with just a couple of cards. So that could be kind of scary. And you could really force your opponent into a lot of like, oh, can I attack? Can I not attack type situations. Outside of that, I do like this, that it's not too crazy hard to build. I believe I've only got 2 mythics and 8 rares, I think is all this list is. So it's still fairly budget. Yeah, I'm looking over it again real quick right here. But yeah, it actually is fairly budget if you want to play that. It's 18 uncommons, 32 commons. So that should be very appealing as well. And that includes lands, because we're only really playing the 1 castle Ardenvale. So yeah, if you want to build a budget deck right out of the gate, utilize a lot of new cards from Strixhaven, and you like Mono White, well, this is pretty good. I mean, this is pretty close to a budget list. It's going to be pretty hard to do better than that, I think, in this set right out of the gate. So if it's something you're looking for, check it out. Remember, though, that you will not be able to load this deck into Arena until the set goes live on the, I believe, the 15th. But until then, please remember to like this video, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, mostly because that helps me out so much and lets this video get in front of more people when you hit that like button. When you hit the subscribe button, that lets me know that you appreciate what I'm doing, putting all these decks out, which, by the way, I'm going to continue to do this until the set goes live. And then hitting the notification bell, make sure you don't miss any of those. And also, don't forget, if you want to come talk about deck lists, have new deck ideas, want us to look at stuff and give you some deck help, bring those over to our Discord. Links in the description below. A big community there that we're actually always helping each other out and going through deck ideas. So good place to come hang out if you're just looking for a place to share, or if you want to catch me on stream, you can find my Facebook gaming and Twitch links down below if you want to come say hi. So that's all I have for you for now. We'll see you next time.